This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And Mark, it is cold here in Chicago.
And in this room.
Well, the frozen tundra from Green Bay is just making its way, well, really not even from Green Bay.
From Canada.
From the Canada and Antarctica. Yeah. It's just coming down. Antarctica's in the north, right? It's not in the south?
Wrong. Antarctica's in the south.
The North Pole, then. Just Santa Claus is like, here, you can have it. You can have it. And it's coming right down here into Chicago. Trying to beat the cold is what we're doing today. Got a great podcast for you. If you're sitting there going, guys, what the hell is this podcast? This is the Onside Kick, where we talk about everything in, I can finally say it, Mark,
the world of football.
Sports. The world of football. As after this week, I mean, this is Super Bowl week. Not only next week is our birthday party, which I'm going to have a special surprise for that. We got the Onside Kick birthday party next week, but also we've got another pro football league that we can talk about the AAF after the NFL season is over. But man, do we have a jam-packed show today. Going to be talking about Raiders draft, going to be looking at Cardinals draft. We're going to have Shane O'Mac on, not Shane McMahon, our follower Shane O'Mac. Going to be talking a little bit about the Colts, and then we're going to wrap everything up doing our picks for the Super Bowl. Before we get into everything, though, make sure to, what am I going to promote? I'll promote the Twitter. Make sure to go to Most Valuable Podcast, at Most Valuable Pod on Twitter. Mark is at the Mark Weber. I'm at Ricky Widmer. Make sure to give us all a follow and hit us up there with what you guys think of what we're talking about. But, Mark, let's talk about the first thing we've got on the docket for today, Jon Gruden and the Raiders. So at the Senior Bowl, which was this past Saturday, Jon Gruden was asked about some of the quarterbacks because his team, there's kind of been a little rift between him and Derek Carr this year. Plus, there's some quarterbacks that could be taken in the top 5, and they've got the 4th overall pick. The quote that we got from Jon Gruden, though, was he was asked about a certain Kyler Murray, and this is what he said. I used to think that a lot until I saw Drew Brees twice a year in Tampa. Then I met Russell Wilson coming out of NC State, and now I'm watching this kid. Murray coming out of Oklahoma, and I'm putting away all the prototypes I once had. I used to have a prototype for hand size, for height, for arm strength, all that stuff. We're looking for guys that can play and do a lot of different things. They come in all shapes and sizes nowadays. I'm going to ask you this question, Mark. It is a loaded one. Mm-hmm. Will Jon Gruden and the Raiders draft Kyler Murray with the 4th overall pick?
No way in hell. Here's the thing that Jon Gruden's doing. He's saying,
trade me.
I've got the 4th overall pick, and I saw what a certain popular GM down in the Bay was doing. Maybe I want to do a little bit of that too. I love Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's the greatest quarterback of all time. You know who else is really good? Dwayne Haskins. Now that's a really, really good quarterback. He's just trying to amp it up, and it's completely obvious. It's not. I don't think anyone's sitting there going, yeah, you're really going to get rid of your 4,000-yard passer, Derek Carr. That's definitely going to happen. Although Derek Carr's attitude that he's having lately is pretty awesome. He is proving that he is a Gruden grinder, challenging Stephen A. to a fight. He's just doing whatever the hell he wants.
He's trying
he
to
does
stay
not
on
care.
that team, man. He's trying to stay on that team.
Does not care anymore. And maybe, you know what? Maybe he is sitting there going, I don't want to move to Vegas. I'll go anywhere else. Please cut me, trade me, do something. And for him, honestly, it's probably not a great prospect as you're sitting here 27 years old thinking, it's at least 4 years until we're probably really competing again.
Yeah.
I'm going to be old by then. So I don't know if he's excited about that.
I mean, for me, it's hard. And the reason why I say that is I want to be on the side of, yes, he's just doing this in order to get drafted, and there's no way that any team out there is going to basically be like, hey, this is like, I want it to be where, yes, I want you to trade me up for it. But there's a little part of me that just goes, Jon Gruden's crazy. Like, Jon Gruden is nuts these days. And I could, like, there is a thought in my mind that is like, I could see the Raiders come up to the podium, and with the 4th overall pick, the Oakland Raiders take Kyler Murray, and then they're high-fiving. They think they got their guy, because the thing that matters is, does he smell like a Raider? Like, if you go up to Kyler Murray and you give him a big old sniff, does he smell like a Raider? And I think it was you that told me this on Saturday. Apparently at the Senior Bowl, they were slapping Raider stickers onto helmets. Like, hey, this guy's a Raider.
Gruden's
we need to make sure he knows he's a Raider.
He's an interesting guy. He's a personality. But I can't imagine he's just going kind of all out for things like that. I mean, you know, he has to have some sort of plan. And I think that plan isn't getting rid of a really good quarterback on your team for a guy who has a lot of question marks. Plus, I also look at it, and this might be some bias being here in Chicago, but I look at a team that drafted a quarterback in the Chicago Bears and what they did.
That guy.
And what they did with it, which nobody thought they were going to get Mitchell Trubisky until they traded the pick. When they traded up, everyone was all of a sudden like, whoa, are they going to do it? They met with him in secret. Ryan Pace didn't even tell his head coach he was going to for sure draft the guy because
that head coach was getting fired.
Well, he didn't want anybody leaking that they were going to pick him because they were going to sneak up and take him. So that's one thing. Another one I look at with the Kansas City Chiefs, who had Alex Smith at the time, when they got Mahomes, people weren't really expecting them to go and they traded as well, actually, to draft Patrick Mahomes.
Well, and the Saints also wanted him too, a team that also had a good quarterback,
and
a great quarterback.
The thing I'm bringing those two teams up for, though, is it wasn't like the Houston Texans. Everybody knew the Houston Texans needed a quarterback. It wasn't like last year. Everybody knew everybody who drafted a quarterback needed a quarterback. It was a situation where teams who had at least something they could do were trying to pass it off like they wouldn't need it. Jon Gruden can't be that dumb to sit there and go, there are 3 spots in front of me. I'm going to make everybody think I want a quarterback so that way anybody who does trades with those teams instead of me.
Well, and the thing that's kind of smart about what you just said, kind of like the theory that you brought up, is the genius of it, and there's also a dual side to it, is obviously if you're going to trade with Jon Gruden at 4, if I'm someone else, for example, the Giants go, okay, we can't wait. We're gonna, or the Jaguars, I'll use them. They jump up to 4. Cool, now we're ahead of the Giants. What's there to think like a Dolphins or Redskin then don't trade up to 2 or 1? And it's like, great, now they're ahead of us. You play that game. If a trade's going to happen, in my mind, it's draft night. Like, this is Jon Gruden basically saying, hey guys, we're open for business. Like, we are not guaranteeing that we're not going to trade this pick. If you want it, give me a call. But, like, I think, like, draft night, you might have, like, I don't think it's the Giants. I don't think we get as close of teams where, like, the Bears were 1 pick behind the 49ers. But I could see a team like Jacksonville. If they really, and this is also another thing because we got this a lot on our Dolphins video. I'm not saying these teams for sure are going to trade up. If they like them, they could do that. Like Jacksonville could jump above.
And assuming they don't get somebody in free agency.
Exactly. I mean, you've got the Broncos, who we've talked about who can do it, the Dolphins, the Redskins. Like, these teams could jump up then at 4, and the asking price for getting the 4th overall pick is vastly different than getting the number 1 or number 2 overall picks in the draft.
But it's the risk then in that case of if you trade up, all of a sudden you start it. So then somebody wants to trade in front of you. And this isn't a draft like last year where you go, well, I can get Mayfield, I can get Allen, I can get Darnold, I can get Rosen.
Yeah.
I got guys for days, even if you like Lamar Jackson.
Like if the Jaguars, I'll use them as an example, they trade up to 4. If that happens before the draft, someone else is going to go, well, shit, we got to get to 2 now. Yeah. And then if that happens, oh, crap, we got to get to number 1 now.
And there's only really maybe 2 quarterbacks you'd take in the first round. And that's even debatable in itself. So that's the thing where like Jon Gruden's really trying to sell it. And I sit there and I'm like, I don't see who is buying what you're trying to sell. I mean, he's the guy on the corner yelling, hey, you want some of these T-shirts? You want T-shirt? I got sunglasses too. You want some sunglasses? He's just yelling for anybody who maybe will be interested.
And here's an interesting thing about it, and why I like this kind of trade theory is you look at the biggest needs for the Raiders: edge rusher, defensive back, and linebacker. Let's just say they keep the pick. There's a few guys they could take. They could take a Greedy Williams, a guy that I had them go with in our last mock. They can take a Clelin Ferrell. They could go with a Josh Allen if he's there. There's guys that they could take right there at the 4th overall pick. But Jon Gruden might be looking at this going, hey, all 3 of our top needs are defense. This is a very defensive draft. I don't need to take a guy at 4. It'd be great to have Greedy Williams, but I don't have to. If I trade with the Dolphins, I can get Julian Love at 13. I can get the corner out of, I think it's Baker, the corner out of Georgia. If I'm looking for a pass rusher, I can get Jalen Ferguson that low. Like, there are guys available at
and
all
you
3
also
of
have
those
multiple
positions.
first-round picks.
Yes, they have 2. They got the Cowboys and the Bears picks. If they wanted to trade up for someone, use those picks for teams. But, like, if you're looking to get a big need with that first pick, if you're the Raiders, you can trade back and still get a guy you like with that traded back pick. You don't need to take that at 4.
The thing I wonder about is for new GM Mike Mayock.
Well, you mean puppet Mike Mayock.
Maybe. I mean, you know, they brought the man in for something, right?
Because he won't say no to Jon Gruden.
And that's what I wonder is who is going to be the one that's in control, because I wonder how that dynamic is. If you're the one in control and Jon Gruden's sitting here yelling about how he loves whichever player you ask him about at this moment in time, because he's too used to being...
Well, I think Jon Gruden's in control.
Well,
he is
hold
the
on.
one in control.
Let me keep going here. I think that Jon Gruden is too used to being a commentator where he always has to say something positive about anybody who he's being put in front of him. You're not going to sit there and trash one of the team's quarterbacks on Monday Night Football, because then you're going to, you know, get the wrath brought down on you.
Which I will say, although I've been one, and I don't know Mike personally, but as I've watched his stuff on NFL Network, I've openly called him a moron before.
There you go.
But you bring up an interesting point. Mike Mayock, the one thing I will say about him that is good is he's not afraid to say a negative about a guy. Like, yeah, you try to keep it positive, but he's not afraid to throw out a negative. What if that was the reason they brought him in? Hey, not only does he know draft prospects, what if they're thinking Jon Gruden's too positive? He's always looking at the positive. We need a guy to say, hey, John, that's great, but what about this? Just throwing that out there.
I don't necessarily think that's actually necessarily into it.
I'm just going off of kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah, I'm more saying that when somebody asks Jon Gruden, Jon Gruden's going to say nice things.
Yeah.
He's not going to sit there and go, Kyler Murray, fuck that guy, he's short.
Yeah.
You know,
or Mike Mayock might give you a realer answer.
Yeah, but I still wonder why Mike Mayock is there. You know, if it's purely just to avoid a Chip Kelly disaster, then that's one thing. But if he's really in control, I can't imagine having a personality like Jon Gruden's really being something that's the dream scenario for a GM. Like, you really want to deal with that. Just how Rex Ryan was kind of a nightmare situation to deal with in a head coach as soon as the team started losing. And you know he's there for 10 years. Got a lot of money in this.
Yeah.
So, you know, is Mike Mayock really in that control, or is it going to be a, yeah, sure, talk about whatever you want, Jon Gruden. I'm the one who's making the call. I'm going to say who we're drafting, and we're not drafting a quarterback.
Yeah, it's going to be, the thing is, we won't get that answer until we see their war room, because let's be honest, we haven't had a draft with Jon Gruden as a rate. Like, once we get because I'm going to throw the Cowboys into that. Like what came out with Cole Beasley. I think it was last week or like last week into this week, because we record on a Tuesday, but he made the kind of thing on Twitter where he said, oh yeah, who gets the targets? That's coming from Jerry upstairs. It don't come from Jason Garrett, Jerry tells them who gets the targets. And he goes, I wasn't getting, he's like, I don't get the targets until the 2-minute drill, when it was basically like, oh, this is unscripted. We're going to basically go to who's open. And that's another thing where if you look at like the Cowboys war room, who's in there? Jerry Jones. Who's running the show? Jerry Jones. And I wonder if with the Raiders, it's going to be a similar situation where who's running the show? Jon Gruden. Like the head coach is running the show, which I'll be honest, I'll go back to it. I say this a lot. The only one I've seen this work with is Bill Belichick. He is the only coach in the whole league that I've seen be the coach, be the DC, be the GM, and it works.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll see what happens. There's a lot of time left of Jon Gruden's contract, so we'll see. But I think you got rid of Khalil Mack, you got rid of Amari Cooper, and when you full on embrace the tank, you can get rid of whoever you want.
Yeah.
But at this point, you're rebuilding. You've got 3 picks. If you're going to also then say, see you, Derek Carr, that's just kind of a waste in that case. A waste of one of these 3 draft picks you've gotten.
So here's the deal. Here's what I'm thinking. Before I ask you my final question for you, here's what I see playing out. Let's say they do take Kyler Murray with the 4th overall pick. We'll play this game. What if? So if they take Kyler Murray with the 4th overall pick, for me, it's a Kansas City Chiefs situation. He is going to sit the first year under Derek Carr. Derek Carr will eat another season. In this case, it's not going to be like Alex Smith, because Alex Smith actually won games and took that team to the playoffs. It's going to be, hey, you're going to eat L's all season, just eat those L's all year. And then, at the end of the year, we'll find a trade partner and we'll send you somewhere, because then hopefully Kyler Murray is then ready to take the starting role. Or hopefully, hey, after another draft class, we feel confident with the pieces or some of the pieces that we're going to put around Kyler Murray heading into his 2nd year in the league.
It's totally possible. I don't see why you wouldn't have just jumped on that last year, because you had 1 more year of Derek Carr, even though he had great yards, he wasn't amazing with his touchdowns.
Well,
I mean, but he doesn't have people to
assessing-
throw the ball to either.
This year was assessing the situation for John.
I doubt that. I mean, Jon Gruden is supposed to be the quarterback guru. He probably knows these quarterbacks decently. He would have known if he wanted a guy like Derek Carr, if he wants his own guy.
It's like, and I can't remember where I heard this. It was, I think, one of the former players or former executives on ESPN. One of the things they always say is if you're a coach that gets that first job or a GM that gets that first job, the first year, don't make any big moves. Kind of just go through the year.
You mean the opposite of what
got.
Jon Gruden did?
Basically, yeah. Like if it would have been exactly that, you wouldn't have traded Khalil Mack. You wouldn't have traded Amari Cooper.
But the thing that you got to think about too is if you're trading this guy, he's about to turn 28, which makes me sad because Derek Carr's the same age as me and he's a lot more successful than I am. But, you have this 28-year guy. If you give 1 more year, he's 29 years old. Alex Smith, it's not like you got a first for Alex Smith if you're the Chiefs. You're probably, if you traded a 27-year-old quarterback, you might be able to get some nice draft capital out of it. You trade a 29-year-old quarterback, you're going to probably get quite a bit less.
Yeah, they got Kendall Fuller. So cornerback Kendall Fuller and a 3rd-round pick in that year's upcoming draft, which was the 2018 draft.
Yeah,
so
not that exciting.
A 3rd and a corner for Alex Smith, who was that after year 1 of his 4-year contract that was underway. Yes. Yeah. So he was 1 year in, I think, to his 4-year deal. Last question I was going to ask you about this. If a team is going to trade with the Raiders, who is it? Let's say we get to draft night, the 4th pick, comes up. Who's that team the whatever sound it is. Which team is trading for Kyler Murray on draft night?
I'll answer your question, but I'll first say I don't think anybody does.
Okay.
For Kyler Murray, and I don't think anybody does with the Raiders. But to answer the question, as if somebody did, if somebody did, I would say it'd be the Miami Dolphins. And the reason why is because if we're going to go into this Ryan Tannehill's gone type of thing, they get a new coach in there. Jacksonville's an actually attractive destination for a free agent quarterback. The Broncos will be an attractive destination for a free agent quarterback. Miami is not. And not because it's in Miami. That'll be a wonderful thing. That's the selling point. The team itself is probably not the best seller.
I'm going to go with 2. I can see
only one
of
gets
2
to do it.
Fine. 1. The Redskins. My other dark horse, though, honorable mention, the Denver Broncos. So Denver's an honorable mention because it all depends on Vic. I believe if Vic Fangio, or even if John Elway, falls in love with Kyler Murray, they could be trading up. Because for Vic, if Fangio falls in love with Kyler Murray, he might tell John, hey, you know what? My old team did this. They got their guy, and look at what happened to them. I like this guy. Believe in me. Who says that they actually do it? Jon Gruden, John Elway. Who says that he would actually listen to Vic Fangio? Nobody. That's why I didn't say the Denver Broncos for sure. But the Redskins, you got to look at this. The thing that's going to be interesting with them at 15 as we get into our next mock draft, there are NFL draft analysts, like the guys that actually give the grades, that after the Senior Bowl are putting first-round grades on Daniel Jones and Drew Lock. If that's the case, the Redskins have a choice to make. Do we take one of those guys at 15, or do we trade all the way up to 4 for Dwayne Haskins or Kyler Murray? They could be a team to me that looks at it and goes, hey, Alex Smith ain't playing this year. Colt McCoy ain't playing this year. We got the Sanchez here because no free agent wanted to come here. I could see them rolling the dice and trading up for a Kyler Murray because although he is not exactly like this player, they did take RG3 in the past, and I could see that coaching staff, Jay Gruden, falling in love or at least liking Kyler Murray enough to want to trade up and get him at number 4 because the Dolphins, they can just tank and get Tua next year. Like that would be fine.
Anybody
with them.
Can tank and get a quarterback next year.
Basically, like that kind of seems in looking at our Dolphin segment, that's what Miami fans are kind of, I think, hoping for is take a defensive player, tank next year, get Tua. The Broncos are pretty much in the same boat. Take a defensive player, tank for next year. The Redskins are at that spot where it's like, hey, we had a quarterback and we were in the playoff hunt, and I don't want to go back to not being in that playoff hunt. But any final thoughts before we move on into our next team?
The only thing I want to put out there, just because we've been talking about Kyler Murray being the number 1 quarterback a lot, I'm not completely sold on that. I'm not completely sold on him even being in the first round.
Yeah, I would take Dwayne Haskins, and I did not have him in the first round, mainly because we do not know if he would pick the NFL over baseball. That's the main thing. But let us know what you guys think down below about what if the Raiders, like, will they take Kyler Murray? Is this just a smokescreen to get a team to trade for Kyler Murray? What are your thoughts down below in that comment section? Let us know.